All right, rational expressions part 2. Today we got addition, subtraction, and maybe a surprise thrown in there. All right, let's go to one addition, one subtraction. Now, what makes this a little tougher today is when you do addition and subtraction of rational expressions, you got to have an LCD. All right, so the rules for making an LCD, which hopefully you remember from Algebra 2, I keep saying that, is use every factor that you have. So my denominator is going to be x minus 1 and x plus 2. Then you just do this. You ask yourself, what does that denominator not have that my LCD does have? And the answer is it does not have the x plus 2. So I'm going to take the 3 and multiply it by what is missing, the x plus 2. I'm going to do the same thing with the second parentheses. This denominator is missing the x minus 1, so I'm going to take the x, multiply it times the x minus 1. And then it's just a matter of working all that stuff out. So if I distribute the top, I get 3x plus 6 and also x squared minus x over all this. Then I'm just going to combine my like terms. So I get x squared first, 2x plus 6 all over. Now one thing you do want to do, you want to look at your numerator and make sure it will not factor, because it may factor and you can simplify. This one doesn't, there's no factors of 6 that have to be 2, so we're good. All right, let's try the second one here. Same deal except it's subtraction. Denominator, my LCD, which is the biggest deal of all. You got to take each factor. X squared minus 1. Let's do this, though. X squared minus 1 is really x plus 1, x minus 1. All right, and this is x plus 1 squared. So I need to erase what I just wrote just a little bit. I'm going to use x minus 1 because it's right there. And I'm going to use x plus 1. But what you got to do when they share one, like there's an x plus 1 squared, always use the bigger one, because x plus 1 does go into x plus 1 squared. X plus 1 squared is not going to x plus 1. All right, so same question. Look at the numerator here. Look at the denominator. What's it missing? It needs one more x plus 1 to be x plus 1 squared. So I'm going to do 1 times x plus 1, which is obviously just x plus 1. Look at this denominator. It's missing the x minus 1. So I'm going to do the negative 2 times the x minus 1. Just distribute your numerator. 1 times that. Negative 2 goes through over all the stuff we already had down here. And then I'm just going to add my numerator up. If I do that, I get a negative x and a plus 3. My denominator is to have an x minus 1 and an x plus 1 squared. All right, that's all you got there. All right, here's your surprise. We have something called compound or complex fractions, where you have fractions inside a fraction, and then once you simplify them. I'm going to be honest with you, there's 2 ways to do this. And I like one way a lot better, and that's what I'm going to show you here. If you want me to show you the other way in class tomorrow, I'll be more than happy to do that. But this is what I like to do because, to be honest, it's just quicker and better. All right, so look at every term in your complex fraction, and especially look at the denominators. I have a y and an x. So what I'm looking for here is the LCD of everything up there. So my LCD of every fraction in my complex fraction will be xy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the whole numerator and the whole denominator by xy, like we multiplied yesterday. So if I take this first term, the x over y, and multiply it times the xy, the y's would cancel each other. And that will leave x times x, which is x squared. If I did it times 1, 1 times xy is xy. Now do the denominator the same way. 1 times xy is xy. The second term, the x's would cancel each other, which leave y times y, which is y squared. And then I'm going to factor and see if anything cancels. So my numerator, I can take out an x, that will leave an x plus y. My denominator, take out a y, that will leave an x minus y. They almost cancel, but they don't. So there you go. That was the surprise, right? Simplifying complex or compound fractions. I'm going to show you one more, a little tougher. Okay, look at the denominators. I have an a plus h and I have an a. So I'm going to multiply the whole numerator by this. If you do the top, you got to do the bottom. That's the bad news. All right, so the top, if I do this first term, the a plus h's would cancel. Okay, so it'll be a times 1, which is just a. The second term, the a's would cancel. So it'd be minus 1 times a plus h. So I'm going to have minus a plus h. My denominator, if I multiply by h, I get a h times a plus h. Just a bunch of a's and h's. On my numerator, if I subtract there, a minus a is, they're gone. So I'd have a negative h. My denominator, I still have this. And if you remember from yesterday or day before when we multiplied our simplified fractions, the h's would cancel right here. So leave me a negative 1 in my numerator and an a plus h in my denominator. And that's good. All right, I'm going to show you one more thing. Last thing, rationalizing a denominator. Just making sure you remember this from algebra 2 also. If you have a radical, you're never allowed to have a radical in your denominator, like a 2. So you got to multiply by the conjugate. Watch what happens. I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 1 minus the square root of 2. The conjugate of 1 minus the square root of 2, 1 plus the square root of 2. Conjugate of 2 plus the square root of 3, 2 minus the square root of 3. You just change the sign. So my numerator, when I do this, I'm doing 1 times 1 and 1 times the square root of 2. There's my numerator. My denominator, look at these. They're conjugates. I hope you remember this from the other day. I'm not going to do FOIL. I'm going to do first, last, because they're conjugates. So I'm doing 1 times 1. And if I do square root of 2 times square root of 2, well, one's positive, one's negative, I would get square root of 4. The square root of 4 is just negative 2. So I get 1 minus the square root of 2 over negative 1. Now, hardly any book or anybody wants you to ever leave a negative 1 in your denominator. So I'm going to divide it into the top and make the square root of 2 become positive and the 1 become negative. And there you go. All right, so just a quick review, rationalizing fractions. So hope that was pretty good for you. See you tomorrow.